This is the Achieve Now website, where on this page I describe my touch typing course as a unique touch typing initiative for academic success. Now that seems like a really big claim. I'm creating this video to explain what's behind this presumptuous claim, as it's much easier to explain verbally than in writing. This is because it's unique in lots of different ways. First of all, the content, what is taught, the delivery, how it's taught. It involves partnership with parents in a way most courses don't. The final outcomes are excellent. I want students to be able to type their homework by the end of the course. And because of that, it's excellent value for money. I'm going to start explaining the content. To become proficient at touch typing takes an awful lot of practice. As parents and teachers, we cannot force children to learn to touch type. We can explain the benefits, we can try and encourage them to do so, but if they don't want to, they won't. And so I think it's really important for students to have their own intrinsic motivation to learn to touch type. That's why I always combine teaching the skill of touch typing with teaching the techniques that it opens up to you, all the functionality and the skills you can use once you can touch type. I'm going to share with you 2 slides that I always show students and 3 slides that I always share with parents and educators to help you understand the rationale behind the design of the course. So I start off by explaining that many children with specific learning difficulties, whatever they are extremely bright, yet they underachieve academically. And because of that, these students can wrongly believe that they're stupid. This is because schools often mistake a pupil's literacy for their intelligence. But the good news is technology enables students to overcome any problems they might have with literacy. Therefore, they're empowered to reach their full potential. Now, this life-transforming technology is widely available and often it is completely free. But too few people know about it, so learners continue to struggle needlessly. And this is what drives me to run the courses that I do. Technology has this great potential, but it's not a cure-all. The fact that it exists, the fact that it's free, even when we show it to our children, it doesn't mean that they will use it. And so what I always do is not only do I teach the children when they're on my courses, I make sure I inform parents how this technology can help them and arm them to reinforce the learning at home and help them to ensure children actually utilize this technology with their schoolwork. It isn't just some nice stuff that they learnt one day, but it's something that they use to help them get higher grades. This might be the most important slide I show parents and educators, and at the same time it's one of the saddest and most frustrating. In my experience, the biggest barrier to success isn't their ability, and it isn't that the strategies and the tools aren't available. It's that the student has given up and doesn't believe they can achieve and therefore won't learn the new skills that will help them. Their self-belief and expectations are so low that it's really, really hard to turn it around. Protecting a child's self-esteem is probably the most vital thing we as adults can do. From a dexterity point of view, it's actually easier to train students to touch type when they're 13 and over, but by that time they might have lost the motivation to do so. And if they can start secondary school with typing as their normal way of working, it can really help to be able to be a laptop user when it comes to formal exams. I don't flatter myself that attending a typing course with me for a few days is going to totally transform a child's self-esteem, but I do hope to start to help them to think differently about their abilities. Having given you a quick explanation of how the content of the course differs, I now want to explain how the delivery differs. Each course is split up into a supervised section and a distance learning section. Now, the supervised teaching is when I impart the content I've already talked about, but just as importantly, I establish correct finger positions and get students to undo any bad habits that they might have. And this has a fixed start and finish time that students need to attend. But the distance learning is once they have good habits and are using correct fingers, it doesn't matter where or when they practice. So I set work for the students to practice whenever they want, and they can do that anywhere as long as there is an internet connection. And the idea of doing this is it reduces the travel burden for parents and enables them to utilize the holiday wherever they are to improve their typing skills. And this is only done by practicing. So how long? What's the duration? Well, the supervised teaching, it varies dependent on the age and the dexterity of the children. So older children who don't have dysgraphia or aren't dyslexic, they can just take 6 hours. Whereas if I have younger students, primary age students who might have dysgraphia or might be dyslexic, then I would say 16 hours of supervised training is required. Where do I do these face-to-face teaching sessions? Well, I often do them in people's homes, which is very effective, and that's done at my consultancy rate. I often do them at schools, and some schools have employed me to teach on a weekly basis for a term. And while I get good results doing that, I've come to realise for the best results, students benefit from a condensed period of practice. So rather than an hour or so a week, it's far better to do 10, 15 hours in a 3, 4 or 5 week period. That is far more effective for embedding the skill. But obviously, to run a course that went for 3 or 4 weeks would be ridiculously expensive. And that's why I came up with this idea in the school holidays. So when children are not bogged down with attending school and homework, they have been set up and you're using the correct fingers, and then I equip parents to supervise the work that I set for them. And in order to help, I give weekly reports to parents, and I keep the children on track with weekly webinars, which I try to make as fun and effective as possible. I also realized over the years that children are very, very motivated by money. And so I have a cash prize for the student who improves the most. Not the quickest or the most accurate, but the student who improves the most, to try and make it fair. So I'm really into motivating the students. And as more and more people are getting interested who live far away, I now have come up with a great idea to do this supervised practice remotely. It will have a start and end time, so it's not like the distance learning, but I can now run this supervised teaching remotely. Now, if I run them at schools often provide ICT suites, but really a better requirement is to use the student's own laptop and their headphones, and then they're totally set up on their own machines when it comes to do the distance learning. But in instances where students don't have a portable device that they can bring, I have loan machines. Both parts of the course are designed to be a partnership with parents. I won't go into all the detail now, but it suffices to say that parents get a lot more information than they would normally with any typing course or tutor. That doesn't mean parents have to be expert typists or technical wizards. I will provide you with all the information you need to support your child's learning. I want to finish off by explaining final outcomes and value for money. Having taught many weekly typing classes and intensive holiday courses, I was unimpressed with the progress that some students were making. Students can attend both these types of classes and still not be capable of typing their homework. I was determined to provide a value for money course for families, and so I paid lots of students to learn to type so I could figure out what worked best. It became apparent to me that practicing a lot over a short period of time was the most effective way to learn. Not having an intensive holiday course followed by long periods of not typing and then another intensive course. I just thought this was a waste of money. So to encourage practice after my intensive holiday courses, at first I just gave students logins and keyboards to practice at home, but they have to be very highly motivated to do this, and despite me doing my best to encourage intrinsic motivation, not enough of the students were doing so. But once I scheduled a webinar where each week we announced who made the most progress, the amount of practice improved exponentially, as did the students' results. Now, on the first day of the face-to-face course, I explained to all the students that this course does not finish when we stop having face-to-face lessons, but it finishes on the last webinar we've scheduled in the holiday, and at that time we say who has made the most progress. I also explain that if they practice through this holiday, they will be a proficient typist, able to take advantage of all the functionality we've shown, so they get better grades for their homework and exams. And this has worked really well in motivating students to practice over the holiday. I'm very sorry this explanation is rushed, but the unique nature of this typing initiative makes it hard to explain. The information I provide for parents whose children attend the course is far less rushed. If you're interested in your child receiving this unique training, or you'd be interested in running a course in your school, please do get in touch. I provided my contact details, and I'd strongly recommend you watching my video on the benefits of touch typing so you understand exactly how students can improve their grades by learning this vital skill.